Hi guys, and welcome to episode 24 of Auntie Danny Knits. I'm your host Danny, and today's going to be a little bit different than the usual episode. Today is May 24th, which means tomorrow is May 25th, which is the beginning of Stash Dash. And I was sort of half planning what I was going to do for Stash Dash, thinking, oh, I'm sure I've got a couple of things I could finish off, and it turns out I've got a lot of things. So today we're actually going to have a bit of a WIP parade, so you can see all of the things that are sitting here and not finished. And the other thing I've got is actually a whole pile of bags on this side of me that are things that are waiting to be started. And that doesn't even include some of the stuff that's sitting over across the room there that I really want to start as well, but I don't know what the stuff over there is going to be. It's just pretty yarn that I want to knit with. And the stuff over here, it's already in project bags with projects already picked up. So I've got a lot to talk about. And we have a winner. So stay tuned for that. Let's just go and get started with what I've finished. So let's talk about what I finished. So the first thing is this thing. I finished the test knit for Susie White of the Prairie Girls podcast. Prairie Girls Knit and Spin, I think, is their official title. And this is the Evanesce shawl. It is really big. I love it. I love it so much. So I used 3 different yarns. The black is a Cascade Heritage in black. The variegated is Into the World Pokoku Sock in the Madame Vastra color, and then the tonal teal is the Kiowa Fingering from Blueberry Chick Yarns in the color Dragon Wings, and I love it. So it's got texture, it's got lace, it's got short rows, it is a crescent shaped shawl, and it is so nice, guys. I'm so happy with it. The test knit process itself was a lot of fun. I'm going to take this thing off and show it to you. I'll never get it back on the same way again, but that's okay because it's actually getting kind of warm in here. But this thing is massive, like bigger than my wingspan by quite a lot, by several inches on each side. It's a lot of shawl, but oh, it is awesome, and it's soft. I blocked it probably a little bit more aggressively than most people would, but I really like the fabric that I get with that, and I live in a place where it's fairly warm most of the time, so I don't need like a thick cozy shawl. I want something sort of lighter and comfier. Really what I need around here is a shawl that I can throw on when I go into someplace, like when I go into a restaurant or into a movie theater or something like that. But look, I can get so much of this draped around me. It's lovely, and I really like the short rows. I'm really happy with my color selection. For this one, I decided to force myself to knit from stash. So I spent quite a bit of time digging through to find just the right color combinations, because I knew that I wanted to use one of my Into the World colors. A couple years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, my sister had bought me a subscription to the Into the World Sock Club, and so every month I was getting a new skein of their lovely stuff, and I just hadn't used a whole lot of it up until recently, and I don't know why. I mean, it's lovely to work with, and I love the colors. I think it was just sometimes I'm a collector more than a user, but lately I've wanted to use my yarns, so that's what I did, and I'm really happy with how this turned out. So yay, and thanks to everyone who voted on the colors for me to use. I do think the black was definitely a better choice than the white. I think the white might still have looked pretty neat, but I'm really happy with how the black turned out. So that's my first finished object. My second is actually just a pile of little preemie hats for the Nikki Noggins for Into the Wool, not Into the World, Into the Wool. There's nothing too fancy about them. These I did with a Knit Picks Bulky. Again, it's an acrylic, just a nice dark green. Just whipped up. I got, I think, yeah, 3 of those out of a mostly full skein. I think I'd used some of it for something else, and this was just using up the ends. So I'm not anywhere near on track to have as many hats as I did last year. I think last year I had like 124. I would love to be able to do that again, but once we finish going through my WIP parade, you'll see why that may not be a reasonable goal for me, and that's okay. The next thing I finished is another set of socks from a tube. So these ones I started cast on Mother's Day, so not too long ago, and I used my socks from a tube instructions. I started at one cuff, the one with the gray, knit a giant long tube, cast off at the other cuff, cut my knitting in the middle, inserted some toes, and then cut and inserted some heels. And I'm pretty pleased with how these turned out. The stripy yarn is Lollipop yarn in the, I believe it's the Whisker City colorway, Whisker something. And then the toes and heels, that is leftover yarn that I had dyed for a coworker's baby present. I believe I knit her a baby vertebrae and a little hat out of this bright pink, and I had a little bit left, so I used it up for this. And I've got just enough to put into my sock blanket. So that's the third thing I finished. The fourth thing I finished was another test knit. It was the one for Tyga Hilliard, the Jessica dress, and until that one is published, I'm not going to show the finished object. That was the one that I was doing out of the stripy sprinkles yarn from Be Sweet Bee Baby, the yarn that I got at Hobby Lobby, the stripy stuff, and it turned out really cute. I'm looking at it, it's up on the door over there, and I like it. I'm quite pleased with how it turned out. So that one is finished. It was another test knit, so the pattern that I got initially has had some tweaks. Same with this one. It started out and there were tweaks made along the way. That's what test knitting is for. But I'm pretty pleased with the finished object, and I'm pleased with all the tweaks that I've seen along the way to the pattern, so I think it's going to be a great pattern when it comes out. And when it gets released, I will talk about it on the show then. But at that point, you may be seeing photos rather than the actual dress, because that dress has to get sent off to my sister so she can put it on the baby before the baby gets too big to wear it. So that covers it for finished objects. And yeah, time to talk about WIPs. So I have a lot of works in progress. That's why I'm sitting on the floor, because there was no way I was going to be able to have any of these or enough of these within reach to sit in the chair and do it. I'd be ducking out of frame constantly. I'm still going to have to duck out of frame to reach some of these because I've got a lot. But with Stash Dash starting, I sort of want to keep tabs on my progress. So I'm going to start with the things that I've worked on since the last episode, and then I'm just going to keep going with everything else that I've got over there. So the first thing I've got here, it's living in a twist fiber studio bag with little owls, and this is my Cladonia shawl. I put in a little stitch marker here after the last episode, and so I've done another several rows, and I want to say I'm like 3 or 4 repeats from starting on the lace section that is at the bottom. So that is making some good progress. I'm excited about this because this has been on the needles for more than a year. Sometimes that happens, but I'm excited to get this one worked on. This one I'm knitting with some Malabrigo sock in Chocolate Amargo and Pearl are the colorways. The Chocolate Amargo is the brown and the Pearl is sort of the grayish color. So that is WIP number 1. Second thing, and I did a lot of work on this, especially in the last week. Last time I showed you my Easy All Year cardigan. I had started at the top, and I had this little dangly to show you where I was last time. And I went ahead and knit the sleeves. After I finished the first ball of yarn on the body, I went ahead and knit the sleeves. And I like to do that when I'm limited in yarn, just to make sure that I'm going to have enough to make the sleeves long enough. I feel like I can adjust a little bit more up and down on the body length, but I wanted to make the sleeves even, and I did them 2 at a time because that's my favorite way to do sleeves. And then I continued and I finished up the body of the sweater. So the sweater body is knit. I still have to go and pick up all the stitches for the, it's not going to have buttons, so it's not really a button band, but the band around the fronts and neck. So that is on my list of things that I'm probably going to finish for Stash Dash quite easily, I hope. Now I'm saying this, I'm totally going to curse myself, knock on wood. But that I'm using Premier Yarn Everyday, the Deborah Norville Everyday in pine green. And it's just an acrylic. It's 100% anti-pilling acrylic. I like this for this particular style of sweater because this sweater, once it's finished, is totally going to be my comfort sweater. I'm going to curl up in it at home. I've already got one in the dark gray, and I have another one that I did in a Malabrigo Rios, which is also very pretty, but that's a fancy dress-up sweater. I wear that like when I want to go out somewhere and look nice. The gray one I like wearing to work because it goes okay with the uniforms that I have to wear. This one, this pine green, is going to go with so many of the things that I own that this is going to be sort of my everyday cuddle up sweater because, again, I live in the South and I'm not the only person living in my house, but I am by far the coldest person living in my house. So we do have the air conditioning on already. We've had it on for months because it got really hot for a while. Like in February it was getting hot. Then it cooled off again for March. It was cold for the wedding, but it's heating up again. So we do have the air conditioner on, and I tend to get cold way faster than anyone else in the house. So to keep everyone else comfortable, we keep the temperature slightly chillier than I like, but that's okay because I can just wear pants and a sweater where they're all wearing t-shirts and shorts. So if they were wearing sweaters, then I would insist that we not have the air conditioning so cold, but because they're, you know, wearing as little as possible, I figure it's not going to hurt me to add a couple of layers. It's a lot easier. So there's that one. I gotta figure out where to put these so I don't get them all confused. What else? The next thing I've been working on are my Star Wars Saga socks. These are Jim's Luke socks. I think I was about here the last time I showed them, so I've knit the whole foot and I've knit 2 heels, and I'm actually on the ribbing at the top now. So I've got about 5 rows into the ribbing. I'm going to do about 20 rows total and then bind off, so I'm super close to having these done. So these will totally get done for Stash Dash as well. And then once I'm done his, I've got enough of that sock yarn left to do a pair for me, so I'll probably start those right away. I tend to do that with the Saga socks. I will do Jim's socks and then my socks right after that, so that once I get mine done, I take a picture of both of our pairs together, and then I let him wear his. Mine I'm actually keeping neatly stacked up until I'm finished all of my Star Wars Saga socks, and then I'm going to take a picture of all of them together because why not? I'm a geek like that. So those are living in my official sock knitter bag with fabric that I got from Little Skein and the Big Wool, but I sewed this one up myself. I also have been working on, this is the bigger one, this. So I have finished 5 of these squares. This pattern is Gemma by Connie Lee Lynch. It's a crochet pattern, and I am using the Premier Yarn Sweet Rolls in the Lavender Swirl, and that is going to be a blanket for my middle niece, Bug. I have finished 5 of these 6 squares. So after I'm done recording, I may actually work on number 6, and they're all slightly different. Each one starts with one of the 3. So I've got, there are 3 colors. There's a light, a medium, and a dark purple. So there are 2 squares that start with the light in the center, 2 squares that start with the medium, and 2 start with the dark. So I'm trying to do that. But yeah, I think after I record tonight, I may go ahead and start up the final square. And this has to get done for Stash Dash. Has to get done for Stash Dash because I want to get it sent to her. It is her birthday present and it's late. but her big sister's birthday is at the end of June. So if I can finish this soon, I can mail this blanket for Bug and the other blanket that I already finished for Bear, and then the little dress for Bean, and have dresses, or not dresses, have presents for all three of them in the same package, and just have one set of shipping instead of three. So I'm gonna try that, see how it works. So many piles here. And I think that is all that I have actively worked on. Reach over here, pull some things closer. Yeah, that's all that I've actively worked on since the last time we chatted. So I've got a lot of other things over here. Some yarn making a big mess. Just gonna wrap this up so it's not everywhere. Yeah, there's so much that I have not worked on lately. So let's see, this one. Okay, so this is living in my Team Double Knit bag. This was bags that I made for my team at Into the Wool the first year that I went, because we were divided into teams that year and I was on Team Double Knit. And this is my Christmas scarf. I know it's not anywhere near Christmas, and that's okay. The idea was that I would start this whenever I started it. It was a while ago, I don't remember when. But the idea was that I would start it not at Christmas and just work on it until I was finished and have it hopefully for next Christmas. This is just some Cascade Heritage prints in color 53. I think it's probably called something Christmassy. I'm just knitting it on US 3.25 millimeter. I'm doing it on a 16-inch circular needle, and I did a provisional cast on, just a crochet provisional cast on, and I am knitting in the round, and that's all I'm doing this one. I'm just knitting in the round, knitting in the round, knitting in the round. So it's actually not going to be a scarf, it's going to be a cowl, but it's going to be one that it's not going to be up and down like this, it's going to be side to side. So I'm going to knit till I run out of yarn, and then graft the two ends together, and boom, cowl. I don't know yet if it's one that I'll keep for me. I mean, it's Christmas colors. I can wear Christmas colors at Christmas. That might be fun actually to wear to work around Christmas time. Or it may end up going to my mom, depending on if she sees it and says, oh, that's really pretty. You know, how moms sometimes do. It's my mom. How can I deny it if she likes something that I've made? So that is that WIP. This one is what I call my movie knitting. I've worked on it through, what did I watch? Thor, and oh, there was one that wasn't as good. Oh, the not the Marvel movie, the DC movie, Justice League. I mean, it wasn't as good as Thor. So I knit on this through those two movies, and I actually don't think I've picked it up again since then, or if I have, it was like in the car or something. But we're thinking about going to see Deadpool this weekend, so I don't know how much we'll get knit with the amount of laughing I expect to do, but that's okay. And it's a long weekend, so we may actually also go see Avengers, because we haven't been to see it. I know, we're big slackers. There are days that we just aren't very good at getting out to see movies, but that's okay. In any case, there's going to be at least one movie this weekend, maybe two, so there will be more knitting on that. But that one I am not rushing to finish because it's intended to be a long-term project. It's intended to be used like just when I go to the movies. Next up, oh yeah, this is two projects in one bag, which are going to have to move to a new bag soon. But this is, I'm calling it my favorite Afghan, and so it's all rolled up. I don't want to unroll the whole thing because it's huge, but this is a crochet Afghan, and I am winging the pattern based on my favorite Afghan. It's actually an Afghan that I've got that I want to say my Grandma Jean crocheted. Maybe my Auntie Mary. Someone on my mom's side made this blanket, and I love it. And I'm doing it in an updated color scheme. The one that I've got is brown and orange and goldenrod, like very 70s colors. So I'm doing this in a more modern color scheme. So this is going to be a full-size bed blanket, And then this is sort of a baby size one that is more of a child size blanket. And it started at a different point in the colors, but there's that. And I was watching the Hollywood Knitter, and she's doing a blanket, or had been doing a blanket that's very similar, and it actually has a pattern. It's called the Groovy Gan, and I looked at it and it's very similar to what I'm doing, but I started not following a pattern, so I'm going to continue not following a pattern. But I've got this to work on, and this blanket is actually, when it is done, it is going to be for Bean. So Bear will have the pink and white one that I finished a while back, Bug will have the shades of purple one, and Bean will have the multicolored one. Eventually. She is still not old enough to demand exactly the same thing as her sisters at exactly the same time, mostly. So I'm going to take advantage of that, and I still want to work on it, but it's just going to be a little bit longer term project. I'm probably going to have to buy a couple more skeins of yarn at some point to finish it, so it's going to get done, just not right away. What else do I have over here? That is an empty project bag, so I can just move out of the way. This is a spinning project. I am drop spindling. This is oh, they're not making fiber anymore, but I got it into the wool in a bunch of nifty little bits. It was a full bag of these basically little scraps from their colorways, and eventually I'm going to spin my way through all of them, and I'm just doing ply on the fly, chain ply, using this drop spindle, and my plan is to eventually have all of these little bits spun into little little turtles and use those to knit a set of stockings or mittens or something, like little cute Christmas ornament things to put on a Christmas tree. And that's living in this bag that I got forever ago. It doesn't have any tag or anything. I got it at my local yarn shop, last yarn shop, the one that closed a couple years ago. It was a commercially available bag, so there's that. Oh, this one has been kicking around for a while. So it's living in a Chasing Acorns, part of it's living in a Chasing Acorns bag. And this is one of those neat ones that has little snaps. So you can unsnap it and have it a flat bag, or you can snap it and have it a box bottom bag. This is the Princess Collection. So I've got this Disney Princess crochet set, and I am making all the princesses for my nieces. So I sent them already the Ariels, and I don't think I did bells for them yet. I've got another Ariel in the other bag. Yeah, this is a multi-bag project. The finished mermaids or the finished dolls are living in the Chasing Acorns bag, and then whatever yarn I'm working on, and then my little notions pouch and the pattern book are all living inside a 31 bag from my mom. And I've got my scissors there as well. Yeah, I started this princess project a while ago. Is Ariel really the only one I've done? I gotta check this now. I've got my Ravelry page up here. Disney princesses. Yeah, Ariel's the only one that I've done for all of them. Oh, I got a lot more to do. Yeah. But I'm also doing a set that I will eventually give to my friend Colby's daughter, and also a set to give to my friend Spencer because he really wanted a set. So eventually I'm going to get through all of those, but they are, they're fiddly, and I have to be in the right mood to do it, but I totally do it assembly line. Like, I did 5 heads, and then 5 bodies, and then 5 sets of arms, and sewed all the arms onto the bodies, and, you know, like that. So I just have to be in the right mindset to do 5 copies of a bajillion little things. But I've got it all here. I've got all my little eyeballs and everything. So I'm going to work on this. I don't think that will get done for Stash Dash, though. That is a little bit too involved for Stash Dash. I have, so this is my substantially old Namaste bag. It's starting to come apart a little. Yeah, it may get moved out of this bag. But this is another blanket. What was it called? The bubblegum blanket. The pattern is by Tina Robbins, who used to have a podcast. I don't know if she still does anymore. I haven't seen it in a while. But it's just another crochet blanket. And again, it's rolled up to take up a little bit less room. I'm using 2 strands held together of mill ends that I got a million years ago. I've wound them all into little cakes, and it's just kind of a mess. They came in like 5-pound bags, and I think when I first bought this, so this was back when I was still in university, and I was going to school a couple blocks away from Hudson's Bay, the Bay. It was a big department store in Canada, and at one point in the basement they had a craft store called Lewis Craft. So they had sort of a miniature Lewis Craft in the basement of the Bay that was just a couple blocks away from the university, and I thought it would be great to knit a blanket, and so I started a blanket. I'll show you that blanket someday, but the point is, this was early on in my renewed knitting career. I started knitting when I was about 13. My grandma taught me, and I did a couple of scarves. And when I was in university is when I started to do more than just scarves. I started off doing blankets, which is really just a bigger scarf, but whatever. And after that I started getting into like patterns and stuff and actually figuring things out and not doing just big rectangles. But that was before I really had a concept of how much yarn I needed for a thing. And so I just bought all of the mill ends that they had in this particular color, thinking, yeah, that should be enough for maybe a twin size blanket. So much more than I probably needed. That's okay though. We're just gonna go with it. So that's where that yarn is from. So that yarn, well, I want to say that Lewis Craft closed my 2nd or 3rd year of university, so somewhere around 2000. So that yarn is 15 to 18 years old. I really need to knit with it, but it's acrylic, so it's lasting. Anyway, let's see what else I've got. I have this. Oh, okay. So this is a bag that I got from Mandy. I won it on her podcast, the We Are Yarn podcast. And inside here, I actually don't have anything going right now because I finished one, but it is yarn that I've been using for preemie hats. So I'm going to, well, I guess I'll use up this batch anyway. Maybe. We haven't even looked on this side of the room, so, but that's what's in that bag. And then this one here, this one I really need to work on because this was last year's Father's Day cast on. So this is, where are the patterns here? Where am I? Okay, so that's the front. This is a vest that I'm doing for my dad, an Argyle-y vest. Let's see if I can find what it's called. This is, well, I've called it my Father's Day cast on. Schmidt. Yeah, Schmidt by David Castillo. And so I've got the first little cable cross, and I think I'm about to start bringing the cables back in. So yeah, I started this last year for Father's Day because I made a lot of things for my mom, but not so many for my dad. Mostly because he runs very hot and doesn't need a lot of knit. But he lives somewhere where it's cold, so I asked him if he would like a sweater vest, and he said, yes, I would. So he picked up the color, he's tried it on, and it seems okay. So I'm gonna just keep it on with it. I'm gonna tuck it back in the bag here, but this I really want to work on, and maybe finish as part of Stash Dash, because that means that I'll have it finished by the time Mom and Dad come up and visit me next, which means I can give it to him then. And then he can try it on, and if for some reason it doesn't fit, I hope it fits, but if it doesn't fit, then I'll just rip back and I'll adjust. But he'll be able to try it on and actually be here. The next WIP is my sock yarn scrap blanket. Oh, and I look at that. So I guess I showed this to you once before, but look, I put little markers in the ones that I've done since the last time I podcasted. Huh. But it's getting there. I mean, it's maybe a yard wide. It's not super wide yet, but I'm using up sock yarn scraps. And this is one of those forever projects. I expect it to continue on for a gajillion years. Basically, I'm only using, for this blanket anyway, I'm only using yarn that I have already knit into socks. But I do have this little bucket full of new yarns to go into it. Socks or hats, some sort of lightweight project like that. It's a mitered square pattern. Let's see if I have the name of it saved here. I might. I actually am trying to do better about keeping my Ravelry notebook up to date so that you guys can see it. This is the Knitted Patchwork Recipe by Martine Ellis. And so it's just a mitered square blanket, nothing too fancy. And I'm doing the join as you go. And my plan is to make it probably twice as wide as it is right now. Once I've got one more square to go in the corner there, and then I'm going to fill in some down here. I'm not really planning it, so every time I get a pair or a skein ready to go, I look to see which spot it will fit best in. But yeah, I want to do it about twice as wide as it is now, and then just keep going lengthwise until I'm done with it. And I'm also doing a second scrap project. It's still very small. I haven't added to it much lately. This is the Weekender blanket pattern by Sandra Paul, and it's another join as you go. This is just crochet, and so it uses less yarn than these, which is odd. You would think crochet eats up yarn, but the squares, or the hexagons, I guess, are a little bit smaller than the squares. But yeah, it's a great way to use up little scrappy bits. And again, I'm just adding on wherever the yarn looks like it's going to match best. So I'm going through that. That's it. Yeah, that's everything that I'm working on. But now we're going to switch to the opposite side of the room. And we're going to talk about the things that I've got ready to go. So first thing is living in this lovely honeydew bag from Whimsy Stitches. This is some more Deborah Norville Everyday Yarn. This one is in the Toasted Marshmallow colorway, and I have already done one sweater in this color. I did an Easy All Year cardigan in that color, and I liked it. That was another at-home lazing around sweater, but my mom also liked it, so mommy got that one. But I've got enough yarn here to do at least one more because I really liked it. I liked the color. You know, it's not super trendy or anything, but I've got 5 full skeins. Yeah, 5 full skeins and 3 partial skeins, and it's only taken me, I only had 4 skeins of the pine, the green one, and there's more than enough to finish off with just 4. So I'm going to have another Easy All Year sweater eventually. That one is going to wait a little while. I don't feel like I need to have another one right away. Next thing that's planned is in another Twist Fiber Studio bag. This is one of her camper bags. It's super cute. Let's see what this is. Oh yes. This is a whole bunch of Barocco Ultrafine Alpaca in a lovely gray. I had bought a boatload of this. I have a full skein and 3 partial skeins. Oh, and I even kept my swatch. And I did a sweater. I did the Grace cardigan out of this, and I really enjoyed it, but the finished sweater just wasn't right for me. I didn't like the way it sat on me, and my sister came to visit and tried it on and said, oh, and I looked at it on her and said, yeah, it looks way better on you than I think it looks on me, so you get a sweater. But I've got plenty of it left, and I think I've got enough yarn to do the Hitofude. And I've wanted to do one of those for a while. So this yarn is going to grow up to be a Hitofude. So it's 2 sweaters. This, yeah, okay, so this is a bag that I made myself when I was playing around with making my own project bags. It's an odd shape and size. It's got handles at both ends. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking when I did this shape and size. It's unique, but this is full of this yarn. This is Cascade Yarn Sunseeker in color 2. It is, it's really pretty. It's a pink. It's blowing out a little bit. It's more of a corally pink with a sparkle in it. And I want to say it is, yeah, it's a 47% cotton, 48% acrylic, 5% metallic. And I've got 4 skeins of it hanging out in this bag. And this is earmarked to be a summer top for my sister. Now this I had planned, man, I got this yarn while Jim was living in Atlanta. So like 4 years ago. Because I'd made myself a summery top out of the same yarn in green. I think that was the first year that I did Stash Dash, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Because I seem to remember taking pictures of it on the carpet in his Atlanta apartment, which was a while ago. Yeah, that's going to take forever to come up on my Ravelry. But it was a cotton summer top. I may not go with the same one. I may choose something different. But that yarn is set aside for that. This is the Secret Garden bag from Little Skein and the Big Wool. I have several of her sets. So this is the Secret Garden shawl kit. And I've got 2 skeins of Western Sky Knits in, what color is this called? The Misselthwaite Manor. And I love it. I think it's really pretty. Sort of a brownie gray. I've got 2 skeins of it, which is just enough for this shawl, the Secret Garden shawl. And I've got the pattern already. I've got the yarn. I've got the little stitch markers that go with it. So it's a little key and a bunch of little rings that have a bead on them. So they're super pretty, and I'm really excited to do it. And I've had this kit for years, and I just haven't got around to it. So this is one that I want to do, because I'm all about these lacy, leafy, viney things lately. So the next one I've got is another Little Skein and the Big Wool kit. This is her Charlotte's Web kit. And it's the Salutations shawl. And I got, which colors did I get? Yeah, I got, so this is Sunshine Yarns in the colors Charlotte and Spiderweb. And I think those two together are going to make a really pretty Salutations shawl. So I'm looking forward to doing that. And that's another one that I've got the stitch markers too that go with it. And these ones have a little first place ribbon progress keeper. And if I can get it out here, it says find joy in the journey. And then several other, just the little rings with beads. So I've got the kit for that. And that's Little Skein and the Big Wool. So I'm excited about doing that one too. And I want to do that soon. It's a pretty kit. And I mean, I got it because I like it, so I really ought to do it. And speaking of Little Skein kits, another Little Skein and the Big Wool. And this is the Little House on the Prairie one. It's another one I'm excited about doing. I don't have the printout of the name of it here, but I'm sure I'll find it. And I got 2 skeins of Plucky Knitter in the colorway Big Woods. This is her Primo Fingering 385 yards, 75/25 merino cashmere nylon, and it's so soft. I love MCN, and I'm really into greens and grays these days, so that's perfect. And this one has, I got the Flapjack Progress Keeper, and more little stitch markers. It's got the little bonnet, and then the little beaded ones. In case you couldn't read it, it says, "It's the sweet, simple things of life which are the real ones after all." A little quote from Laura Ingalls Wilder. And I was a big fan of the Little House on the Prairie books when I was a kid. So, of course, I got this kit. And I really want to knit it. What else? So the next few things I've got were not pre-made kits, and that's probably for the best. This is, oh, I can't remember the name of this yarn. But I used it for 2 sets of hand warmers that I've done lately. My Memories hand warmers. I did them last year. I worked on them during Dancing Stars, so that I was working on something purple. It's the Classic Elite Yarns Yuri, and it's just a nice marled color. The colorway is lilac, and that's showing up a little bit more bright purple than it is. I've got a skein and a partial skein left from doing the hand warmers, and I actually want to do a set of, or a memory shawl to go with it. And I don't sell my patterns. I just give them away because, well, there's a lot of stuff. But I don't sell my patterns. But I like the idea of having something sort of to honor the Alzheimer's Association and the people that I work with every year when I'm doing this. It's really important to me, my work with the Alzheimer's Association. None of my grandparents were actually diagnosed with Alzheimer's, but there was definitely a little bit of dementia starting, and we've had other family members that have had that as they've aged, and there's a lot we don't know about the brain, and anything we can do to research and help that is really important to me. And so that's why I volunteer every year with the Dancing Stars program. I'm their stage manager. I do it all for free. I coordinate backstage. I'm not at a place in my life where I've got a lot of extra money, but I am happy to give them my time. That is what I can do right now. And you know, maybe when I am more established and have millions of dollars to spare, I'll donate them all to research. More likely I'll have a little bit of extra money and I'll donate that to research. Not millions, but you never know, I might win the lottery. Anyway, that was a little tangent there. Let's get back to my prepared things. This one is also living in a Little Skein bag, but it's not the Little Skein project. This was her Anna Green Gables bag, and I've already knit that set. Yeah, I really like that bag. But in here is living, oh yeah, this is a really pretty cotton. Let's see if I can pull this out. This is, I think I showed it on the podcast a couple weeks ago. The Great Adirondack yarn, organic cotton, in a color that I cannot read their writing, but it's really pretty. It's got some blue and teal and sort of a sagey green and brown and tan, goldish tan. This I'm going to use to make myself a linen stitch type cowl. I think this is going to be really pretty for the fall. So this may or may not get done as part of Stash Dash, depending on how the stuff over here goes. But I would love to have this for fall. So that is on my list of things to do. Next over here, this is Living in a Project Bag by Tiffany, the project bag. And the yarn inside of it is from Dana of Unwind, the Unwind Yarn Company. This is the Without a Paddle colorway, and you can probably tell they're slightly different colorways. This was the yarn that was in the goodie bag at Into the Wool last year, and it's sort of been my tradition over the last few years to get 2 skeins of whatever Dana's special colorway is, and make myself a tank top to wear the following year. So I got these last year, and I'm going to be knitting them to get some points for the Spotlight Knit Along. And I got a little stitch marker from Twisted Planet that I'm going to use. It's filled with little star confettis. And I found a pattern. Which one was it? It was by Tyga Hilliard, and I don't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but when I start knitting it, you'll see. But I'm going to use these just alternating so that you can't tell that it's two different colorways, or not colorways, dye lots. And yeah, I'm super excited to get working on this. This is going to happen for Stash Dash because it has to if I'm going to have it count for the Spotlight Knit Along. And I've got more Lollipop over there that will be socks eventually, I'm sure, for the Spotlight Knit Along, but it's not already in a project bag, and it's Lollipop, it's probably going to be socks. Anyway, next, so reach. This is living in a Rainstorm Studio bag. This is, this is the Cascade 220 Cascade 128 that I showed you a few weeks ago. This is yarn that is going to become a hat for my mom, because she wanted a hat. So this one, it may also get done because the pattern that I want to use, what is it called? Northland? Or something. It's by Tin Can Knits, and it's a simple but not too simple hat pattern. It's got some cabley bits, so I want to try that with this, and Tin Can Knits is a sponsor for Into the Wool, so I may get some points for that too. I also have, this yarn's been caked up since, I want to say, well, since I came back from the last Into the Wool. This is from Rock and String Creations. Super bright. It's one of her Halloween colorways, and I got a coordinating toe and heel. Apparently I did not keep the tag in here. It's living in a bag that I got as a prize from Steph, the Knitting Samurai. And it's going to be socks for Jim because he picked out that color. I took pictures of stuff and sent him pictures when I was at Into the Wool. I said, I want to get you yarn for socks, and that's the color he picked out. And he's colorblind, so I made a point of saying, okay, well, it's got a lot of pink and purple and orange and black. And he said, yep. Okay, good. As long as you know what you're getting into. I don't want you to have these awesome socks that I knit and then you wear them and someone comments on them and you sort of go, oh, I didn't know the colors. But no, he's happy with it, so that's good because they're awesome. They're going to be great Halloween socks. And then the last thing all bagged up is over here. Oh, there's one more thing too. This is in a Winnie the Pooh pattern fabric. This is just a bag that I made myself. It's sort of a bigger one, but it is great for lugging around blankets. And this is a whole bunch of Plymouth Yarn Heaven. Super, super fuzzy, and it's really hard to find this yarn anymore. But Jim's niece had asked for a blanket out of this. I don't know if she still wants it or not. She may not, but that's okay because I'll just make it into a blanket anyway, and then have it for the next baby shower that I need. But that needs to get done, and it is done on like a size 10.5 needle, so it goes super fast. And I just like using, for this yarn, simple pattern. I do, it's mostly a garter stitch, and I sort of follow the Grandma's Favorite dishcloth pattern, that sort of the mitered, not mitered square, the is knit corner to corner bias. Anyway, it goes up like that and then back like that. But that works really well for this super fluffy yarn because you're not going to get a lot of detail. There's no point in trying to do stockinette or cables or lace or anything like that. You're not going to see it with the fuzz. And then the last thing that's already put together is actually still in a box from Knit Picks that got delivered. Let's see, does it have a year of postage? No. Well, it's before my sister's youngest was born. Oh man, it's got needles in here and everything. It's got the needles, and it's got a whole bunch of yarn. And this is going to be a sports blanket. And actually you can't see any of the blue here. The blue is, there we go, the blue is underneath. There's some fluff in here. But my family are big Winnipeg Jets fans. This is all Nitpick Swish DK, and it is going to be a Winnipeg Jets blanket. I made a Saskatchewan Rough Riders blanket for their oldest daughter when she was teeny tiny. And when the second one came along, my sister said, well, we like the Jets hockey team. Will you do her a blanket? And I said, yeah, okay. And we bought the yarn. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. Mostly because I haven't even got around to coming up with the pattern. I don't know that I can even buy a pre-made pattern with a sports team logo. I suppose I probably could, but I've got a program on my computer over there that I can just take a picture and import it, and it will convert it to a colorwork pattern, and then the blanket itself is going to be stockinette and probably in Tarja rather than Fair Isle, but I'll figure that out as I go. But that really needs to get started at some point too, because they've been asking about it, and now they have a third kid, and I haven't been asked for another sports team blanket, so maybe I won't get asked for another one. Who knows? Anyway, that was my WIP parade. Oh my goodness, I had a lot. So I didn't do too much shopping. I did pick up some new Malabrigo sock yarn in the color Carabinho from my LYS when I was there, because she recently acquired some new Malabrigo sock yarn, and I like it. I like the variegateds. I like fun sock yarn, so I'm hoping that by purchasing it, I'm encouraging her to purchase more of it in the future. So that is my first acquisition. My next acquisition is this lovely item. This is a super short cowlie scarf. Scarf? Yeah, it'll be a scarf because it's not attached, so it's a scarf. From Connie. Thank you, Connie. I love it. So this is a crocheted one, and oh, so soft. I love it. And this is her Argyle type pattern with planned pooling. If you look her up on Ravelry, Connie Lee Lynch, Lynch, she has a bunch of patterns, and she does a lot of crochet patterns, and they're really cool. She does the Gemma blanket that I'm working on. She's got a market bag that is in my mental list of things that I want to do. I haven't actually put together a bag of the project yet. I might do that though, now that I'm thinking about it, because I'm looking across the room and I've got a whole bin full of crochet cotton, which would be awesome. Anyway, this was her gift to me, and I'm super excited about it. I love the planned pooling Argyle thing that's going on, and she made the shawl pin herself too, and it's giant and it's perfect. Like, I love the squareness of it with the squareness of the Argyle motif. Love it. So thank you, Connie. I'm super excited about it. And that was what I acquired this week. I do have more yarn coming, but I think I talked to you about it last time. It's the Lando yarn from Mustache Yarns, but it's not here yet. But I got the shipping notice, so it'll be here soon. I'm super excited. Love good email, or love good mail days. So that is what I got. Oh, I didn't realize I was still recording. Alright, so I think that is everything for this week. I feel like that's a lot. It's been a long episode, but thank you for watching my WIP parade, and hopefully I'll have more of a faux parade next time. I've got so much that I'm working on, guys. So much. But I'm hoping this motivates me to get a lot done for Stash Dash. Stash Dash is always really motivating for me. And if you don't know what Stash Dash is, you need to get over to the Knit Girls podcast. I don't know what you're doing watching me if you're not watching the Knit Girls. But they do Stash Dash. They've done it every year for a long time. And it's a competition with yourself, basically, to try and get stash out of your house by finishing things. So I'm super excited about that. Like I said, I'm gonna have that blanket done for Bug. I'm going to have my sweater done. I'm gonna have Jim's socks done, hopefully have my socks done. I'm gonna have a tank top started and finished. I really want to try to finish some of this stuff before I start any of this stuff or anything else that's in this room. And I really need to clean up my craft room some. But that's a story for another day. Anyway, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I appreciate the time we spent together. Congratulations again, Nicole, on winning the yarn, and get in touch with me and I'll get back to you. And until then, happy knitting, and I'll see you next time.